Welcome to the Financial Beast Podcast, the practice owner's guide to maximize practice value and create personal financial success. Your host, Eric Miller, is the co-owner and chief advisor at Econologics Financial Advisors. He is also a national speaker and published author in financial matters focused on practice owners at every phase of ownership.
Hey, welcome to the Financial Beast Podcast. This is where we show private practice owners how to become financial beasts. I guess, simply put, we want to make sure that you are in charge of your own personal economy and you don't let the outside economy affect your personal financial condition. Everything we talk about is really going to make sure that we empower you so that you can make good decisions and that you feel confident about your money decisions. I think that wraps it up pretty simply. Yeah. So I'll be your host today, Eric Miller, Chief Advisor, co-owner of Econologics Financial Advisors, and I am here with
Mendy Heinz. I am the Director of Marketing and Sales here at Econologics and 20 years experience in the business.
There we go. So we got kind of an interesting topic today because we're going to talk about, we're going to get raw, I think, when it comes to this one. Your spouse and your practice.
Ooh.
Yes. And I think this is always an interesting one because, look, the disagreements that people have in the area of money, that's not a mystery. Mm-hmm. This is a big cause for divorces.
Yeah.
This is a big cause.
It's one of the top three.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Anxiety and, all the other negative emotions that comes along with it. So let's talk about it.
Okay, let's do it.
And we're going to have two different scenarios here because in some people that we work with, their spouse is part of the practice.
Yeah, absolutely. A big part of it.
And that's a different mojo. There's different things that you need to do to make sure that you still stay in alignment. And then, of course, you have the spouse that has nothing to do with the practice.
Completely disconnected.
So there are, I think there's two different ways you can travel. And I've seen it work both ways.
Of course. Yeah.
And really, I think it has to do with what the other spouse actually wants to do. I think the times that I've seen the spouse be in the practice and then not want to be there, but they feel like they have to be there.
And they're trapped.
Yes. Mm-hmm. That's probably not a good thing.
No.
But okay, well, let's talk about this. Which one do you want to start with first?
Let's do the spouses in the practice.
Okay, the spouse is in the practice. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the idea here is, how do we make sure that the spouse being inside the practice doesn't create a scenario where there is turmoil in the household?
Mm-hmm.
So
I think it kind of starts with bringing home everything that's happening at the practice, right?
True.
So I think where we see the most issues is that, you're talking about the business every waking moment, unless there's a family problem. And it seems like the business takes the priority of all things considered.
Does need to be a delineation between the household and the business.
Yeah.
Now, we talk a lot about that with people that we work with, is that, look, your household is your household.
Yeah.
It's your parent company. The business is simply an asset of the household. When your spouse is part of the business, they're really an executive in two different places. They're an executive because obviously they're part of the household.
Yeah.
But then they have a function in the business as well.
That's right.
So you do have to make sure that you're separating out, okay, are we talking about the household or are we talking about the business today?
Right.
And if you don't do that, then they're just going to kind of like all mesh together.
Yeah.
And all the problems that you have in the business are just going to spill over into the house.
And they do. They do. And some of it's staff related, right?
I think it's mostly staff related.
That's why I brought it up first.
Yeah.
But it is also about, creating a better business. And there's different viewpoints. Everybody has their own viewpoint, but when it's your spouse, it's as if everybody has the most important feedback, know? And so it is defining the roles.
Yes.
For within the business as well as within the household. And so you talked to that a little bit more about the household and who's in charge of the finances and who's in charge of, kind of the directive. So it's important, but because it's no different in the business.
Well, it does start with alignment. Like both of you have to be aligned with common goals and purposes of exactly where you want to take the household and where you want to take the business. And if you have two different people that are trying to do two different things, then it's like trying to drive a car that's not aligned. It'll still go. You're just gonna,
wobbly.
You're just going to wear the tires out a lot quicker.
Yep.
All right. And so that's the issue, is that when you have good alignment, you know it, because things run smoother.
Yeah.
They run longer. Doesn't mean that there's not problems. Doesn't mean that there's not obstacles, but the alignment does really help. So I think getting those two things aligned together, which of course is, what is the household? What do we want to achieve as a household?
Yeah. It's defining those particular goals that are vital to the survival of the household and for it to thrive, and what assets do you use to do that. And of course, the practice is a primary investment asset that helps produce income and, you know, and all the other benefits, but it does create problems as well because they don't stay in the practice, they come home.
True. But I think, you know, when you're looking at this, it doesn't, whether the spouse is in the practice or not in the practice, you do have to start at the household level.
Absolutely.
As far as getting the alignment in place between the two of you.
Everybody has to agree. Yeah. Why do we own this asset? What is it there to produce?
Right.
And how are we going to achieve our goals utilizing the business?
And what are those household goals that we have together?
Yeah.
You know, what do we want to achieve?
Yep.
So,
agreement, alignment, same.
So what would some common goals that a household would have?
Income.
Okay. There's a certain lifestyle that we want that we want to have. That would be a goal.
Yep.
Maybe we want to have a second home. Maybe we want to
multiple children. That's expensive.
Yeah, exactly. We want to we want to donate. We want to volunteer. I mean, there's got to be some goals that both of you have together. The direction that how are you going to treat the kids?
Yep.
You know, what's our
school?
All those things. All those things need to be like. Hopefully, you've done that prior to marrying that person. But
yeah, not always.
Doesn't always happen.
There's this weird thing called, infatuation and love.
That's true.
Gets in the way of,
it does,
basics.
doesn't it?
It does.
So those common purposes and I think shared values. Look, if they're just not there, I'm not a divorce counselor.
No,
but it's just not going to last very long.
No, but it can. You can come to some agreements, but typically what we find is it's just varying degrees of education in terms of what is possible, right? Yep. So one spouse might think, oh, I think it's possible to, climb Mount Everest. And the other one's like, no way, that's not possible at all. Yep. And when you don't have those agreements of what can be achieved, then you're immediately off. Yeah. Right? Because then somebody's holding the other person back, or somebody's, sacrificing everything to achieve something and not bringing the rest of the family with them. So, it goes both ways.
You said a good word there. You shouldn't have to sacrifice anything of yourself.
That's right.
For your spouse. Like, they should be there to support you. Like, but they have their own happiness that they're in charge of. Like, I'm not in charge of my spouse's happiness. She is.
That's right.
Or he is.
That's right.
And, but I am there to support them because we have shared values and goals that we'd like to achieve. Right. And I think it definitely starts there. And when it comes to money, because there has to be, that is going to be a part of the equation. If you're going to run a household, you're going to need money. You have to have some similar philosophies on money.
Yeah, absolutely.
One person can't say, well, I want to do all this with it. And this other person says, well, I want to do this with it. If you have two different viewpoints on philosophies of money, that's not going to work.
No, but you can still have different personalities in terms of, and I think this is where the whole yin and yang and the opposites attract. You might be the spouse that is all about saving and, just making sure there's security, and you might be the spouse that's all about the building and spending to build more, and you can find this happy medium of where if you align your goals properly, how you do both, right? It doesn't have to be an either or scenario.
It doesn't.
And we've seen it where, a partnership will come in, a partnership meaning husband and wife, will come in and they're on different pages. And when we really start to break down where are you getting this from, and what's behind all of it, and then what can be achieved by the business to, to support that, and how everybody can kind of have their way and still do all the things instead of the either or scenario. I think that's when we see kind of the power couple.
And that's where it does, you do have to like have an agreed upon, like, okay, but there are some basic characteristics that we all agree upon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We know we would like to have passive income to pay for our lifestyle.
Absolutely.
We both agree upon that. Great. Okay, good. We both agree that we would like to have, to be personally debt-free, no consumption debt. Okay, great. So we can agree upon that. We both agree that we'd like to make the business a little bit more self-sufficient so that we're not having to spend every single waking hour in this thing.
That's probably the number one.
Yeah. we can both agree upon that. Okay. So you just pick, like, don't make this complex. Pick like 5 or 6 things that you would like your financial life to look like. And let's start building upon that as opposed to, well, she overspends on certain things and it always bugs me because she doesn't take responsibility. Okay. That's not going to really help.
No. And we see that too, right? We see where they're frustrated with each other, with their own, kind of viewpoints on money. And so because they don't have the alignment of what goals they really want to achieve, typically they want the same thing. They just go at it a different way. I mean, I know my husband and I do. we go, oh, let's do X. And then I go, why are you doing it that way?
Yes.
And he's like, it's going to achieve the same goal. I'm like, okay, well, I would do it different,
Yep.
So you find out when you start to open that conversation that you probably do want the same things.
I think most people do. And if you find out that you don't, then, that's probably where
that's a bad sign.
That is a bad sign. But this again, so how do you come up with that? I think there needs to be a system of basic financial metrics that both of you can track and agree upon. Like, these are the things that we want to achieve. We have to have a measurement for it. So let's come up with a measurement for it. Maybe we both have different methods of different strategies of how we're going to get there, but this is the stat that we want to measure. So, I think you have to have a system of good statistics for the household.
I mean, that's goals basic, right?
Yeah.
Create a goal that's specific and measurable.
Yep.
And then step by step how to get there.
Yeah, exactly. So that certainly a lot. So we talked about alignment, having goals and purposes that are known, are objective, are written, certainly. Having a similar values and philosophy on money that, and if you don't have that,
you just get some knowledge.
There you go.
Because really, a knowledge together. Here's what I've seen too. I read all these books, but I can't get this one to read, know? And so it's kind of a blame game, and that's not going to solve problems either. So, and it certainly won't make the other one want to read.
No. So that leads to a good question then. What do you do? How do you train each other on money? So
we have to agree that you want to learn together to accomplish those aligned goals, right?
Yeah, you don't have to go to an accounting class. You don't have to go to
nobody wants to do that.
Wants to do that anyway. And I'm not talking about learning advanced theories and algorithms or anything like that, but just some really
basic principles,
simple principles that we're going to agree upon.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're not going to spend more than what we make. If we're going to spend,
that's such a good one.
Yeah,
it's so easy, but it is not easy to implement.
No, it's not,
because there's so much opportunity to overspend.
What's another one? If there's a purchase that's going to be over X amount of dollars, we just have to agree upon it.
That's a great policy. Yeah, household policy. That's what they are. Household policies, right?
And we talk about you can have in a business, how many policies do most practice owners have in their business?
Hundreds
or should.
right?
It probably should.
To make that practice run without you,
Well,
you're going to have some policies in place.
With a lot of employees and seeing a lot of patients and being in the medical field, you are going to have some policies because you're talking about making sure you have guidelines, you deliver in medicine, there's liabilities there.
Right.
I don't know that you need to have 100 policies in the household.
There's no way.
I don't think so.
No. But just like 5 or 6,
why don't you just have
10?
like a commandment of 10 basic policies that we're going to have in the household?
We need to create that.
Would be like
the 10 commandments.
The 10 commandments of finances in our household.
Yes, I love that.
You know, I'm sure one of them would be we're not going to spend more than what we make.
Yep.
I think one should be we are also going to make sure that we celebrate when we have achievements.
I love that.
We're not going to hoard money just for the sake of hoarding money.
For all you safety security people out there.
For all you people that have
mattress money.
$600,000 sitting in an account, but you don't have any money.
It's a scarcity viewpoint. If you really look at that, that's not abundance.
These kinds of things, I think, you can come up with some basic, simple agreements that are like, okay, this is what we're going to agree upon, and they don't have to be that complex.
No, you're going to have one advisor that's really helping pull things together.
That would be another one.
That's a good one.
We're going to have a team. We're going to assemble a team that we both trust. Of people that are going to help us navigate the things that we don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you can't do it yourself. Not if you really want to attain great things in your financial life.
No, I'm trying to think of some other good ones that. They can have as a practice owner. I think we're gonna say that the business is gonna be there to serve our household, not the other way around.
Yeah, like the household is the priority.
Yes.
So in all things, right now, sometimes you have to roll up your sleeves and spend some extra time in the business, but you do have to prioritize the household. Like, what is the purpose of that time? Could it be delegated?
Yep.
I think we just had our summit.
Yeah.
And one of the things that came up was that, you're one of the biggest commodities that's also very limited is time.
Yeah.
And not to waste it.
And how to control it better.
You have to control it.
Yeah.
And to do that, you have to prioritize certain activities so that you can still achieve your goals, but you don't sacrifice your family or your business for those goals,
That could be a commandment. Like we're going to get ourselves into a financial condition where we eventually control time, or for the purpose of controlling time.
I like it.
Now that means that you have to give up some time in the beginning,
of course,
to build that. But as long as it's known by both people that this is why we're doing it, to control time,
and there's a time frame that you want
to do this,
have that freedom.
I think that would handle the spouse that's not in the business, that is always upset.
Definitely.
You're
not here.
I never see him. We're not there.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you. I think that those two, if the spouse is telling you that, you guys aren't on the same page.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah.
They're just not
absolutely
on the same page.
No.
And I don't know. That's a tough one because there's probably reasons why. I mean, I'm sure the spouse wants you there to spend more time with the kids, to spend more time with each other, but you have to plan that out, and you have to recognize if you see that that's occurring.
Yeah.
Correct it.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen where the spouse that isn't involved in the business doesn't understand all the owner practitioner does is come home and complain, right, about the business. They never have any time. Well, look, that's a management issue, right? So you as the owner need to really focus on how are you going to get yourself out of the business. And sometimes that means you need to hire a consultant to help you organize things better because things are disarray. If you have staff issues, you need help. So that's an indicator that if you're bringing that kind of stuff home, and that's all your spouse ever hears is,
That's true. All I hear is the bad news.
The bad stuff.
I mean, who wants to hear that?
Nobody.
You know what? That's
it's a responsibility.
You created that. If that's the case, you can't complain about your spouse and say, oh, all she does is tell me that I'm working too hard and I need to get out of there because all I do is I come home in a bad mood.
Mm-hmm.
That's on you.
Yep.
That's on you. Like you
And there's something you can do about it.
Yeah, of course you can. But you can't come home and just like spill all your, all your toxicity on the other person and just expect them to, oh, honey, it's fine. It'll be okay. I believe in you.
Yep.
And not think it's not going to have a negative impact on them at some point.
Because they probably did that for the first couple of years.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they supported you. And I've seen, couples where the spouse, was like, all I hear about is the negativity and the bad news. And I get it. Cause you come home and who do you have to complain to?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that is the reality of owning a business, is that there's going to be muck.
Yeah, there is,
right?
But there are ways to handle that. And I think it is something you can control. And if you can just identify what I see the common characteristic is when that's happening, is the owner is a control freak.
Yeah.
And they just insist on doing everything themselves and that nobody else can help them. And they can't possibly, have a consultant. Their consultant doesn't know what they're doing. I have to do it all myself. And that creates a problem where you're not going to have the time to solve all the problems in the business. And then you're creating more problems at home.
I was just talking to a practice owner that is still, and she's a great owner, but she's still doing functions that that are like, why are you doing these things?
Right. It's what is your time worth? It goes back to my first, like your time is so valuable.
You shouldn't be doing deposits at the bank. Okay. You should not be doing stuff like that. I understand you want to keep control over the money lines.
Yeah.
And I understand that there's certain functions that you think that nobody else can do, but that is going to tie up so much of your attention, and it's eventually going to make you like, what? Okay, I'm doing all this. Why?
Yeah.
So
you're trapped. And by the way, doing that in the business and not creating a business that is, independent of you or as much as possible actually lowers the value of your business. So you're doing yourself and your family a disservice in that. Right, too, because who wants to buy a business that's completely dependent on you at top dollar?
Yeah, for sure.
They won't.
Or you're going to have to stay on, for a number of years until you can
burn out.
The other person comes in there and says, "Okay, you're relieved of duty." There are things in here, but yeah, that's a good point. It really is that if you are bringing a bunch of negativity to the household, number one, you stop that. Number two, look at you're a control freak. Yeah.
It's so true.
Yeah.
But look, on the other hand, if you are the spouse that is experiencing a situation where, all your spouse does is come home and complain about the business, and is upset and feels burned out, all those, it's your responsibility to say, hey, let's get some help. Right. Let's talk to some people who can help us line this out. And I think, and I don't mean like therapy, I mean like business help, business management. I mean, people who can help get things organized. And it's well worth your time and effort and money to hire the right experts to help you get things in good order, to get back aligned and back on track where you feel really good about your business and you don't feel trapped.
And it does, to establish that, you do have to go back to, look, honey, we want to have this much time, this much in resources. This is the purpose. And we're not there. Our current scene is not anywhere close to that. So for us to approximate that, we're going to have to do something different, because what we're doing right now and you can't say what we're doing right now isn't working.
That is a great point.
Or we're not seeing the progress towards that. So then let's just try one thing. Maybe that is, let's see what our colleagues are doing.
Yeah.
Find someone that looks like they got their, together. What are you doing? How did you do this?
Yeah.
And I would start there. I mean, it doesn't have to be like 7 things. Just do one thing.
Yeah. I think it really is about getting on the same page as spouses and making sure that you you really are working towards the same goal, because we've also seen it where the spouses are going in different directions.
Yeah.
Or if the spouse is working in the practice, they don't want to be.
Yeah.
But you depend on them as the owner so much that they're afraid to leave, and then they become resentful, and that's not a good scenario either. So it's making sure that we individuals have our own purpose and goals in life, and that, whatever our activities are aligned with those things. And it's okay to have started out helping and then end up in the practice. But if you don't want to be there, you're probably going to drag the practice down. Yeah. So it's also your responsibility to say, hey, I need to be replaced.
Yeah, I'm not, my heart's not in it. It's just not something that I want to do anymore.
Yeah.
And I want to do this. It's fine.
Yeah.
But you have to take responsibility for the role that you had. Make sure you can turn it over. Make sure someone can do it, but allow that to happen where you can let go.
Yeah. It also still creates a higher valuable business, because now the business isn't dependent on both of you to run.
Yep.
Right.
Look, I think it's really awesome to have the spouse and the two spouses work in the same business. I think there's a lot of value in that. But to your point, there are times when it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have to work together if they don't want to. You shouldn't do it out of. Sometimes you have to do it out of necessity, but there has to be an actual desire to want to do it for it to work.
I agree. And if you're gonna hire your spouse to be a part of the business, please pay them.
Oh my God.
Please pay them.
Yes.
I have seen that so many times. And, there's it's okay. I don't need to be paid. We get benefits through the business, and,
That's enough
I get to help out. But then you find out that's not really, that's just what they've been saying to themselves and out loud for so long that it's just become now their inevitable truth. And it's really not.
Look, there's an accounting or valuation term called normalizing an expense, where when someone is going to buy your practice, if there's something there that you're not, like, let's say there's an expense that is out of whack.
Okay.
Either lower than what it should be, or higher than what it should be.
Like not paying a spouse.
Like not paying a spouse.
But you'd have to pay somebody to do that job.
You'd have to pay someone to do that job. So whoever's buying you is going to normalize that anyway, right? They're going to actually put that in there and say, that is an expense. You haven't been paying your spouse that.
But I'm going to have to pay somebody.
We're going to have to. Someone's going to have to do that function.
That makes sense.
So they're going to normalize that. And so either way, you're gonna take it in the shorts if you don't pay the person. You're either not going to pay them. You're either not going to take the money or leave it in the business so that it just gets eaten up, or it's going to reduce your overall EBITDA when you go to sell your practice. Either way. So look, if someone's doing a function, make sure they get fair exchange for that.
Yeah,
and compensate them. That's a good point.
Well, look, if we're really talking about becoming a financial beast, I think, at the point to this conversation is just to make everyone here aware that you're not alone, right? If you're experiencing these issues, this is pretty common. We see it all the time.
Yeah.
It's very rare that we see the total power couple already have it all together, right?
I don't even they
they still have their things.
They don't have it all together. I mean,
they may seem like they do.
May seem like it. Look, you can do anything on Instagram and Facebook.
Oh, okay.
You can do anything like that. But you're right. I mean, there's going to be disagreements,
for sure.
But it doesn't mean that there's conflict.
That's right.
Two human beings living together, you can't do it, with simplicity and no
synergy every single minute. You can't. That's weird.
Anybody says that is full of it.
So to become a financial beast, though, that you need to create that alignment. It needs to be your number one priority.
Yeah, alignment.
Yeah. You have to have that, and the agreement, and then education to help you guys together create the future that you really, really need and want for yourselves individually, together as a couple, and as a family, and as a community. So, the business is there to support you in those goals. It shouldn't be the barrier in your relationship. So that would be, a financial beast I mean, it's not really a metric, but I guess it can be.
It's an indicator.
It's a characteristic and it's an alignment.
Yes, it is an indicator of someone that is in charge of their own personal economy and knows it and is relaxed about where they're at. They're calm. They just have that sense, of inner peace, whatever you want to call it, that makes them, be able to make decisions and not, question themselves or
each other
themselves or anything like that. That's just certainty.
Yeah, confidence too, in making the right decision. So I think that if you could learn anything from this, I think it's just really start having the conversation, not a blaming.
Yep. Start.
But just, let's talk about our goals. Let's have dinner tonight and let's talk about our goals. Let's spend a weekend where we can just talk about what we want. And sometimes it's one person leading. I know I've done that with my spouse, just kind of lead the conversation. But then it's amazing what happens when you start to build those dreams together. So
it's a good place to end off, right?
I know we should end off here.
All right, good. All right. Well, thank you for listening today. We're going to certainly have more of these as we continue to try to teach practice owners how to really get in charge of their personal finances. So if you like what you're hearing so far, certainly share this with any other practice owner that you know.
Yeah.
We're going to continue to put out as much content and podcasts as we possibly can.
Let us know if you have any feedback or anything you want to hear about.
Feedback would be good. And if you have questions, you can always go to Econologics Financial Advisors and you can subscribe.
Yep.
You can
schedule a meeting if you want to talk more about this. We can just do a 15-minute meeting where we can help you sort some of this out.
Definitely sort this out. So, okay.
Thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
You have been listening to the Financial Beast podcast, where we talk about how to turn practice profits into personal financial wealth. For more information on how to become a financial beast and practice ownership, visit financialbeastpodcast.com. You may also want to call the office at 727-588-1540 to request more information on becoming a client or arrange to have Eric speak at your next event. That's 727-588-1540 or financialbeastpodcast.com.